Good evening, rather, esteemed panelists and distinguished guests. Thank you again to Italian Embassy and ENI for the invitation today. I think we've had some great presentations and discussions throughout the day today. So Asia's and Indonesia's energy demand is bound to grow for decades to come, and in line with the region's economic prospects. Alongside the growth in energy supplies, addressing this trilemma, rather, of energy security, affordability, and sustainability is paramount. The events of the past year have really accelerated many changes in the energy industry, creating an increased urgency to deliver on the industry mandates, I think, of the 3 Cs, right? Cost, capital intensity, and carbon reduction. Looking to the current industry dynamics, we see a new cycle, I think, of oil and gas demand growth beginning with the onset of stronger multi-year economic rebound. Industry demand projections for oil and gas continue to show both growth and resilience as a key pillar. However, the long-term competitiveness of our industry will also depend on our ability to effectively harness technology and data, and will depend on deeper collaboration to address these industry mandates. To thrive, we need to generate higher value as we deliver lower carbon. 42% or rather 23 gigatons of the world's greenhouse gas emissions are related to the oil and gas industry. Of these, 5 gigatons are related to the value chain of getting it to market, defined as scope 1 and 2. The rest, or scope 3 emissions, generated mostly from burning of the end-use fuels such as diesel and gasoline. More than 50% of that emissions from oil and gas value chain, scopes 1 and 2, are related to fugitive methane leaks during production, transportation, and hydrocarbon processing. Downstream activities such as the heat and power required for refineries are the next biggest emitter, followed by extraction or drilling, flaring, crude transport, and hydrogen production. In order to reduce carbon dioxide emissions to net zero, all of these sources will need to be addressed. Turning now to lowering carbon, in June of this year, Schlumberger announced its 2050 net zero ambition. We take this commitment as a company that believes strongly in the power of technology to create change. Our science-based approach to climate change is aligned with the 1.5 degree C target of COP21 Paris Agreement. Rather than just considering the scope 1 and 2 parts of our emission, our net zero target encompasses our total GHG footprint, including our scope 3 emissions. As such, our emissions reduction roadmap addresses the entire oil and gas value chain. In order to avoid any impression of greenwashing, our targets for 2050 are supported by interim targets in 2025 and 2030. These medium-term targets are backed by climate science, and we continue to work with Science-Based Target Initiative, SBTi, for formal extension validation of our medium-term deliveries. We have put in place a comprehensive decarbonization framework that includes emission reduction across our entire value chain. We believe this will be a source of competitive advantage. There are 3 key components to achieve our net zero ambition, which is operational emissions, carbon negative actions, and technology use emissions. The first area of emissions is in operation, which constitutes roughly 25% of our emissions baseline footprint. We've already begun to convert our facilities at scale to renewable power, with Indonesia being very close to starting that too. We are also in the process of electrifying our fleet of vehicles globally. In addition, digital adoption is playing a key role in driving waste and consequently emissions out of our operations. This has been very visible during the last 18 months throughout the pandemic. The second element of our decarbonization framework is around carbon negative actions to minimize our reliance on offsets in our journey to net zero. One current example relates to bioenergy with carbon capture and sequestration, or BECCS. In March 2021, with our partners Chevron and Microsoft, we announced plans to develop the first large-scale bioenergy with CCS plant in the world. This is the unique project using one of the few carbon-negative technologies available today. When completed, it will remove around 300,000 tons of CO2 from the environment annually. Final area of our decarbonization framework addresses our customer emissions, i.e. Scope 3, or rather when our technology is used. We have launched our transition technology portfolio as well, which will be a key enabler to the industry's decarbonization efforts. This portfolio of solutions addresses technology use emissions with a focus on flaring, venting, and power consumption during operations. The quantification of CO2 footprint and reductions has been a challenge for operators and technology providers. This is why we have created a quantification framework to standardize calculations and enable benchmarking through net footprint comparisons. We extended this exercise with ongoing research projects and incorporate emissions reductions into our R&D process as well. The transition technology portfolio is focused on our largest opportunities to reduce oil and gas industry footprint, including fugitive emissions, flaring, and electrification. For fugitive emissions, we are already deploying technologies to help customers from identifying sources to significantly reducing emissions with qualified low emissions equipment, such as our low emissions valves portfolio. We now have technologies that remove the need for flaring, such as Aura Intelligent Wireline Formation Testing Platform, which avoids flaring operations during reservoir appraisal. Finally, looking to electrification, which has long been a technical challenge in our industry. Schlumberger is taking the lead to provide a totally electric solution from the wellbore to the production facility, which will have significant decarbonization benefits. A fully electronic production system not only paves the way for complete digital capabilities, but to full electric platforms and plants that can be operated remotely, particularly offshore. Finally, just to pivot, let me turn quickly to share a bit of our overview of our portfolio of our new energy ventures that are focused on low carbon, carbon neutral, and even carbon negative technologies. We have been actively involved in CCS and CCUS for over 15 years now, and are currently engaged in over 20 projects globally. These can come across sectors as diverse as oil and gas, power, cement, chemicals, agriculture. As I mentioned earlier, we have launched a venture in California with Chevron and Microsoft around bioenergy with CCS, which is effectively a carbon negative technology overall. Carbon capture and storage is a critical element to meet the Paris Accords and net zero ambitions. CCS especially beneficial in hard-to-abate sectors, has been discussed already. We have been actively engaged as well in geothermal for several decades around the globe. In this region, Indonesia, Philippines, and New Zealand have been the most active players. Schlumberger, alongside our partner Geothermex, have been participating in over 60% of the geothermal projects globally. This is a mature business today, yet with great potential to grow to help decarbonization of power generation, particularly in Indonesia. Last year, we announced the creation of Celsius Energy, a startup with unique capabilities when it comes to providing geoenergy to heat or cool buildings at a fraction of the CO2 footprint. This holds a very promising future to decarbonize commercial and residential buildings. Last year, we have announced the creation of our Genvia partnership in France. Built upon a unique reversible solid oxide electrolyzer technology. The focus here will be to enable the production of green hydrogen in the gigawatt scale with a much lower electricity consumption. This is very exciting, actually. In March 2021, we have officialized the launch of a direct lithium extraction pilot plant in Nevada in the US, whereby we foresee the environmentally friendly production of battery-grade lithium with much reduced water requirements. The intention would be to use this pilot as a proof of concept before scaling up. Overall, this is a very exciting portfolio with more to come. We intend to leverage our subsurface technology expertise and project management capabilities to develop these new energy businesses at scale for the benefit of all. Thank you for your chance to share this. That's the end of my presentation.